Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well today. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you guys had an awesome 2025 and here's to a great 2026. So 2025 has been my best reading year thus far. I read 84 books, and so I just wanted to share with you some of my favorite books from this year that I read this year, and hopefully inspire you guys to pick them up and see it for yourself. So I just want to start off with the first book, which is Prayer for Owen Mini by John Irving. This book follows two characters, the main character and a boy named Owen Mini. They are best friends, and it follows them throughout adulthood, from their childhood to adulthood, and how they develop as friends. I think this book's main selling point is the character of Owen Mini, who is the most memorable character I've read this year. I think you just have to see for yourself how he's written. This book is very funny, humorous, and it definitely takes some left turns and doesn't follow normal trends at all. So this was my introduction to John Irving, and I look forward to reading more of his books as well. So this is one of my favorite books of this year. Next is another John Irving book. It's The World According to Garp. Very similar to A Prayer for Owen Mini in terms of its humor, but very different in its characters. It follows this nurse called Jenny Fields, and her son called Garp. So same premise as A Prayer for Owen Mini. It follows two of these characters as they grow during life. I think this book is more satirical and more absurdist than A Prayer for Owen Mini, but nonetheless it's still very funny and very memorable, very distinct set pieces and characters. I don't want to spoil too much because a lot of things happen in this book, and even if I were to describe it, I don't think it would do justice to how well it's written. So definitely pick this up and be prepared to read some outrageous writing. But I loved it very much. Okay, next, I have Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. This is a book that that follows a boy named Oscar, whose father passed away during the 9/11 terrorist attacks. So his father left behind a key for Oscar to try to find out what it opens. So there's 162 million locks in New York where he lives, and he has to find the one that specific key opens. So Oscar is a very special child. He's an inventor, and he's a letter writer and an amateur detective, and it follows his perspective. So sometimes he's a bit naive and childish as expected from a 9-year-old, but because it's written from a POV of a 9-year-old, there are certain moments which are very heartbreaking, and you definitely get to see a side of what a child goes through when a parent dies in a very tragic event. And this book is also filled with many interesting illustrations and writing techniques, which I think accentuate the sadness and eccentricity of this book. This book's end is very touching, at least for me it was, and yeah, I cannot recommend this book enough. Next we have a YA novel by S.E. Hinton, The Outsiders. This is a YA novel, and if I'm not wrong, S.E. Hinton, she wrote this when she was a teen, so a very accomplished writer at a very young age. This is a relatively short book, and it follows two gangs of boys. It follows the main character called Pony Boy and his brothers and his gang, which are his adoptive family, you can say. And the other gang of boys are more privileged and a higher socio-economic status than them. So it follows those two gangs of boys and how a very big moment sets the whole book in motion. Even though it's relatively short, as I said before, it discusses a lot of serious themes like privilege and crime and violent adolescence, and follows them and as they go along. And I found this to be very, very enjoyable. And usually I don't read YA novels, but this was so good, and I loved it to death. Okay, next, going on to a bit of non-fiction. I read this tome by William L. Shirer, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. So this is a comprehensive view on the rise and fall of the Nazi regime, from the rise of Hitler to the differing factors that led to the Nazi Party taking control of Germany, and how they conquered and they took over many countries during World War II, and how they eventually fell from the Allies. So this is written by William L. Shirer, which is a first-hand witness to a lot of the events that happened in Germany. You can really tell like a lot of the passion and outrage that happens during the book is very explicitly put in this book. And I think even though a lot of historians criticize this book for not being objective, I think that's what makes this book so special and so comprehensive and so driven in its narrative. And I really love this book, and I think it's the book to have for this subject. It's a very long book, but I was enraptured throughout. So I love this, and I think anybody who's interested in this topic should get this as well. But it's a very popular book. Okay, next, if I had to choose my favorite read of this year, it would be this, Team of Rivals, The Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln by Doris Kearns Goodwin. This is basically a biography of Abraham Lincoln, but it focuses more on, as the subtitle says, his political genius, and how he amasses his cabinet, and how they help him through the Civil War and all sorts of different problems, from his birth to all the way to his assassination. I've never read another biography on Lincoln, but I think this would be hard to beat. But I really love this. The characters and the figures in this book are so well fleshed out and written. It felt like I knew them in real life, and yeah, I got to know some of the other members like Seward and Stanton, and Salmon P. Chase very well, and yeah, it also drove me to want to read their biographies as well. So this is, like I said, a very engaging piece of biography, and it's all like mini biographies of the other characters as well. So I really love this, and yeah, it's a reason why it's so acclaimed and recognized in a lot of literary circles. The following books I don't have with me physically, since I borrowed them from the library, but they're still just as enjoyable nonetheless. So I want to talk about The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. So this is a fantasy novel which takes place in the King Arthur mythology, and it follows a talented young knight named Colum. So he meets the famed knights of the myth of King Arthur, and I really love the writing and the characters, especially the characters. They are all very fleshed out and from distinct backgrounds, and I love the way they interact with one another. And this book is very different from normal Arthurian fantasy novels in that King Arthur is actually dead in this one, so it follows the rest of the ensemble. So it's a standalone novel, which is also a good entry into Arthurian fantasy novels. So for those who are like less inclined to follow series, this is a great starting point. And I really love the characters and story, how it slowly traverses from Sir Colum being a lowly knight to a great one. So it's not formulaic, and I think it will take you into a lot of places which you've never been before, in terms of enjoyment. So yeah, that's the Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. The next book is Indianapolis, the true story of the worst sea disaster in U.S. naval history, and the 50-year fight to exonerate an innocent man by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Bledich. So this follows the story of the USS Indianapolis, which was the warship which transported essential parts of the nuclear bomb which was used on Japan to a US naval base. Now, right after they transported those parts, they were sunk by a Japanese ship, and as a result, a lot of men lost their lives. And this book follows the aftermath of the sinking of the ship, and the subsequent persecution of the captain of the ship, Captain McVeigh. And this was mainly because he failed to zigzag the warship, and which caused the sinking of the ship via submarine. So this book's contents are very visceral. It follows a lot of first-hand accounts from the men who were on the Indianapolis, and how they survived shark attacks and starvation, and how they didn't survive a lot of these risks as well, and exposure, and how they eventually became spotted by an aircraft in the air and how they were rescued. And then the other half of this book is about the court proceedings of Captain McVeigh, who a lot of people were angry at because, validly so, because he failed to zigzag, and it follows how a lot of people started to forgive him because there was not much zigzagging would have done. So it basically follows the whole train of events, and it was expertly done. The accounts were very relevant to what was happening, and I would recommend anybody who's interested in naval history to read this one. And yeah, I really love this book. So the next is a series by Elena Ferrante, which are the Neapolitan novels. So I've only read the first 3 novels in the quartet, so I can't speak much for the last book, but I've seen some very good reviews on it, so it's safe to say that the series ends very well. But from the first 3 books, I can say that it's a fantastic series so far. It follows 2 girls from childhood, Elena Greco and Lena. So they're more soulmates instead of best friends. They often argue and have a lot of differences, but in the end they always converge and meet together, and it's a very unique take on female friendships, one that is hardly written about, especially in fiction. And Elena Ferrante is actually a pseudonym for an author, which is anonymous, so we don't know who she really is, but man, can she write. She's from Naples. All the characters are from Naples, as well as the author. That much is revealed, but it follows a big cast of characters, and it follows them as they grow older and how they develop in their feelings and relationships. And especially there's a few characters which are, after reading the 3rd book, which are very detestable, like I said, from the House of Mirth. One indicator which I like to see for myself when a book has really hooked me is if I really hate a character, not because of how badly they're written, but more so their acts and the character is the one that makes me feel hatred for a character. But yeah, I think that speaks to how much the series really is really well written, and hopefully you get a lot of enjoyment from that as well. Okay, the next 2 books I would lump them both together because I read them one after the other. So the first is House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. The other is Custom of the Country. Now both of these books are very, very splendidly well written. I love the prose and the characters. I love the characters on surface. Some of the characters are detestable, especially the main character of Custom of the Country. But yeah, it's a very profound piece of commentary on how society treated women back in the day, and I think it's worth your time. The last but not least is a biography by the great Ron Chernow, Grant by Ron Chernow to be exact. What can I say? Just a very good biography on Ulysses S. Grant, from his upbringing to his generalship to him being president, a US president. It follows his political journey as well as his personality, his drunken struggles, and the relationships, and his total lack of knowing who is trying to scam him and who's trying to benefit of him. And as a result, he actually wrote his autobiography to support his wife and children after he died, because he got swindled of all his money at the end of his life, which is pretty sad ending. But I really learned so much about US history as a result, not only about Grant's life, but the whole Civil War as well. And I have a newfound respect for Grant and all that he stood for, and his personality, especially the stoic kind of personality, not in the dude bro kind of sense, but in the strong, silent type. That's like one of my favorite personalities to read about. And yeah, I love this book very much, and I think this is definitive biography on Grant, and I can't wait to read Alexander Hamilton by him as well as all the other biographies of US presidents. So yeah, so those are all the books that I really enjoyed. Of course, there are many other books that I enjoyed as well, but these are the standouts in my opinion. I'd love to know what are your standouts, and and you can share it to me with me in the comments, and I'd be happy to read about them and add them to my my TBR as well. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you at least considered some of these books, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you, BookTube.